Hallo Leute, ich bin Shade und heute habe ich ein wunderschönes Video für euch. Okay, I just wanted to try that out once because I have this awesome review of Hahnemühle watercolor papers for you today. By the way, I said, hey, I'm Shade and today I have a wonderful video for you. So Hahnemühle very kindly sent me some samples of all of their watercolor papers, which is really great for me, especially being in Germany, being able to try out local paper, and they have a ton of different papers. And you might know that I absolutely love the Hahnemühle bamboo paper. I use it in all of my sketchbooks, and it's definitely one of my favorite non-cotton watercolor papers. So today I'm going to review the namesake paper from Hahnemühle. It's called the Hahnemühle, and it is one of their mold-made watercolor papers. What is a mold-made watercolor paper? A mold-made watercolor paper is a paper that's actually made in a vat and produced on a mold machine, and that's when you see those kind of like soft, wavy edges on a watercolor paper. That is how you get that, and that's how you get also that kind of like natural surface. So it's kind of fancier. At the time of the review, I also thought that this was a cotton paper. It is not a cotton paper, it's a cellulose paper. So that explains a bit of the problems that I was having with it, which would be unusual to be having with a cotton paper. The Hahnemühle paper comes in two finishes, rough and cold pressed, and it comes in two weights, 200 GSM and 300 GSM. I'm doing the same test on all of these papers. If you see my how to test watercolor paper video, that explains everything. And I'm also doing the same painting on all of them, something fairly simple that has a variety of different techniques, a bit of detail, and glazing, which is a technique that is really important for me. So the first paper I have here is the 300 GSM cold pressed paper. You can see me doing all of the different tests. I'm testing for backgrounds, lifting, granulation, mixing, strokes, and softening. And I'm also doing a wash test. And then after that, I will also be checking masking fluid, masking tape, and glazing. This paper did really bad in the masking test. Like, it just got so torn up, it was really sad. Unfortunately, I don't have all of the clips from this review. Some of the files got corrupted, so you don't get to see the entire process for me painting all of them, but I wanted to share with you at least the painting of some of the things. So the next is the 300 GSM rough, where you get to see the colors go down, and it's the exact same test. Everything lifted extremely easily on these papers, and the rough press also had this problem with the masking tape coming up. I felt that it was really easy to have paint lift up while you're painting. If you did too many layers, and detail underneath would get very blurry and muddy. Then there is the 200 GSM cold pressed paper, and obviously lighter than the 300 GSM. The cold pressed paper was definitely damaged by the erasing test, and I'm not really a big fan of the mechanical texture that it has. It kind of is like lines going across the paper. It's a little strange. Any problems that I had with the 300 GSM were kind of magnified by the 200 GSM papers. They all also had harsh lines around the background text, but they did not have backgrounds. So that is pretty nice. All of these papers had this issue with the bleeding around the edges, and just generally were not a lot of fun to work with, for me anyway. I did enjoy the rough papers a lot more, like this 200 GSM rough. I could see this being really fun for anything that needs kind of loose lines, and I had a lot less of a problem with building up form. The rough papers also had a bit less of a problem with the masking tape, which was surprising to me. And the granulation was a bit nicer than on the cold pressed. On the cold pressed, somehow even Lunar Black did not look really nice. If you're painting with not a ton of layers though, this paper is totally serviceable, and even though it does buckle with water, it does dry pretty flat. I can say that of all of the Hahnemühle papers, which was pretty impressive. So shortly after doing the tests for these papers, I also recorded a first impressions. So let's go over the Hahnemühle paper, starting with the hot press. So this is the hot press paper. We had no issue with back runs. Lifting was kind of weird because both the phthalo green and the green earth lifted pretty normally, or not normally, but pretty well. You could get the phthalo green all the way back down to the white. So that's pretty strange and indicates to me a lot of lifting. The granulation is whatever, that's kind of what you'd expect with granulation. It was able to hold. Oh, sorry, this is not the hot press, this is the cold pressed. There is no hot pressed in the Hahnemühle, but it was able to hold details pretty fine. It's a little difficult to get like the finest details, but it's pretty good and it doesn't seep. You're able to soften fine. The thing about these line is that it damages pretty easily. You can see that the line for both the masking tape and the masking fluid is not exactly even, and then you can see the damage in the paint that I put over. Erasing damaged the paper a little, but not a big deal. So glazing, this is where you can see trouble. This glaze totally just poured out the entire wash underneath. And that's a problem that I constantly felt like I had when I was painting. Like it was going to just completely lift up on me like gouache, which I've never had before. But you can kind of see here how that looks really strange. And I think I had this part go completely white on me. Like this, I wanted to do some charging wet and wet, and all it did was basically just lift up the paint. So that doesn't look very nice. This wasn't fun. This is the 200 GSM. So you'd think that the 300 GSM would do better. Oh, and the 200 GSM didn't buckle very much actually, even though it wasn't taped down. So that's pretty good. All of these papers in terms of buckling did way better than the Fabriano Artistico, which buckles a ton. So this is the 300 GSM, and no backruns, same lifting, which is unusual. Actually, considering that this is a cold press, that granulation is pretty pathetic, as is this granulation. It's not very nice. You're able to get some fine lines, not super duper fine, but it doesn't soften or anything like that. Softening was okay. I mean, I wish it was better. It's kind of a hard edge here. Lots of damage here with the masking tape, and the masking fluid just ripped up a big chunk there. And obviously is damaged in the painting. Same issue with the glazing. A little bit better than the other one, but same issue with everything becoming all blurry underneath. And yeah, you can just see that, like what is that? Paint just completely lifted up to the white. I don't know what that's about. These were all a bit frustrating to work on. I mean, obviously it holds color fine enough, but like it's difficult to soften well. Because actually, that was a weird thing. Paint doesn't move around on these papers. It just sticks put. It doesn't like gently disperse over the paper. It just stays where it is. So that was not really fun. Now the rough. I'm actually finding that I enjoy rough more than cold press. So no background issue, same lifting issue, much nicer granulation than on the cold press. I like the way that these colors mingled. Surprisingly okay for details for a rough paper, and still have some kind of hard edges, but softens better than I think the cold press does. Glazing issues. Yeah, it's just, yeah. Same damage issues. Not as bad, I think. That big chunk didn't come off, and actually it's quite clear here, so this is much better than the regular cold press if you're talking about damage with masking issues. And I haven't mentioned, but they have pretty good washes. The only thing that I noticed is that this one has, I don't know if you can see it, this strange area here. I don't know if somehow the paper got damaged, in which case it means that the paper can get damaged very easily. The other ones didn't have this issue. So this was actually not as bad. I didn't have as many of these troubles in the lifting and painting in this on this one of the Hahnemühle papers. I think this is probably one of my favorite. I definitely like the two rough much better than I like the two cold press. So I didn't have as much of trouble lifting or edges or anything like that. Still wasn't the easiest. The paint didn't really want to move around by itself, but it wasn't as bad. So this is the 300 GSM rough in the Hahnemühle. Here is the background test, no backruns, same lifting, much nicer granulation with the lunar black. Pretty nice granulation with the two mixing and just combination of the two. This one, I don't think you're going to get super duper fine strokes, but it's not like it's not possible to get thin lines. Softening was okay. This one had also a lot of trouble with the masking. You can see that it tore up. So that is not so good. And a bit of an issue with the erasing. You can see the damage here, not really bad. And the same glazing issue just really blurs out all of the edges here underneath. The wash overall is okay. It's a bit weird. It's not, so like this is very even though this has two extremely granulating pigments in it. This is very even. This has some strange patching in it. And this one, was also much easier to work with than the cold press. You can see some issues with harder lines and a bit of that lifting issue that I experienced. Overall, it's okay. In the end, I would not buy the Hahnemühle line of Hahnemühle papers. I just had too many issues with them, with the lifting. I'm not really sure what it is because these are only internally sized, so it doesn't really make sense that they should have that kind of issue. But of all the artist grade papers, I will just let you know already, this is my least favorite. There are going to be some cooler ones in other reviews, but these were not my favorite, especially the cold press. The rough are not so bad, but the cold press they're difficult to work with. I thought they were going to be pretty good because they were able to take good washes, but these are not my favorite to work with, so I would not recommend them unless these are definitely the best price that you can get in your area. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. See you next time. Bye.